So I grabbed the same axe and planted it in his forehead.
When it comes to changing your style of music, it can result in two things. One is that your change in style is so cohesive with your other albums that it just works and no one really gives it much mind, which I believe is the case with ICP. Or a second thing that could happen is that the primary audience loses interest due to the new sound. Twiztid's most recent album, Unlikely Prescription, is the case of the latter, as every juggalo that I saw was quick to bash it. There were also some criticisms of Twiztid supposedly only doing it for a cash grab, which I heavily disagree with, as they've had plenty of rock songs before on previous albums. Hell, every other track on Mutant was pretty much a rock song, and they have made it clear that they want to do a rock album for years. Hell, it's not like the concept of them doing so was inherently bad. Ice-T did the transition from rap to metal, and in my opinion, he did so with flying colors. Yeah, part of me believes that if the beef between ICP and Twiztid wasn't going on, then they, I wouldn't say that they would like this album, but they'd definitely be a lot more welcoming of this album even, being a thing to begin with. That's why I always live by the motto, fuck the beef, pussy queef. Now with that being said, what do I think of this album, having re-listened to it multiple times? Well, I know I'm probably gonna piss certain people off by saying this, but I liked it. In fact, it's only gotten better on further listens. I guess the main reason I think this is because I'm someone who grew up mainly listening to rock. Rap wouldn't really become a part of my life until I had my Limp Bizkit phase, but I grew up on bands like Avenged Sevenfold, All That Remains, Breaking Benjamin, along with many other rock bands. Twiztid's Unlikely Prescription reminds me very much of these bands, while not sounding exactly like them, of course. But really, it's more than just nostalgia that I like this album. I was also very impressed by the vocal performances by Jamie and Monoxide. When I heard that Twiztid was doing a purely rock album, I thought that they would maybe just stick to rapping over loud guitars like they did in songs like We Don't Die, but instead they pretty much did everything from singing to rapping to even screaming at certain points. I'll admit that the screaming isn't that amazing, but the singing was on point for the most part, even though they sometimes, did bring in the auto-tune. Jamie probably has the better singing voice, but Monoxide sounds great at certain points, especially on the chorus that did instead. Granted, some of the guest features like Spencer from Ice Nine Kills on Envy blow Jamie and Monoxide out of the water, but they're still enjoyable by themselves. That's not to say that all the vocal performances on this album are great though. There is a part of Dead Instead where Jamie does this Blink-182 type of delivery, and it just sounds off-key as all hell. Overall though, I was genuinely impressed by their vocal performances. The instrumentation is also great and melodic. It is kinda dragged down a bit because of the lack of solos and the lack of any real focus on anything other than the vocals, but it's not bad. I particularly like the riffs to songs like Twist and Shatter, Envy, Comes With an Apology, and more. But of course, this album is definitely not without faults. One of the biggest problems being that, well, there's a little bit of filler on the record. It's not to the point where it's annoying, as the album is a passable length of 15 tracks, but there are a couple songs that probably should have been cut out for a more consistent album. Songs that I'd call filler are songs like If I Get Things Right, and especially More Than a Memory. No joke, the latter is very forgettable, to the point where I don't even remember how the song goes the majority of the time. I think that's because of the fact that it really doesn't have anything that makes it a replayable song, not even a catchy hook like a good majority of this album has. Overall though, I did enjoy this album for what it is. It's not Twiztid's best album by a long shot, and the subtle shots at ICP on this album were just kinda petty, like the entire beef. But overall, I do consider this a good album. I personally give it a 7 out of 10. With a little bit of trimming, I'd say that this album could have been up to par with albums like Freak Show. Anyways, this has been Slayer, signing out.